What do Happy Feet, Ice Age, and Frankenweenie all have in common? Our next guest, award-winning film composer and hit songwriter Helene Muddiman from Hollywood Elite Composers. We discussed her company, which advocates for songwriters and composers' rights, the many challenges that the film and TV composers face in today's market, and much, much more. Stay tuned. This episode of the MUBUTV Insider video series is brought to you by the Music Business Registry. The Music Business Registry is the leading music industry publisher of the most up-to-date contact information for major and independent record label A&R, music publishers, artist managers, music attorneys, music supervisors, and much, much more. The Music Business Registry is the trusted industry standard and source serving the music business community for over 30 years with the most accurate and up-to-date contact information available. Their titles include the A&R Registry, the Film and Television Music Guide, the Music Publisher Registry, and the Music Attorney Registry. All of their publications are available in PDF, CSV, or online subscription. Visit musicregistry.com and use coupon code MUBUTV10 at checkout. That's musicregistry.com, coupon code MUBUTV10. When you're ready to put your music to work, musicregistry.com. We're back with you live from Sing Summit here in West Hollywood at the SLS Hotel. We managed to catch up with Helene Muddiman here at the conference of Sing Summit. Helene, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
It's a great pleasure.
Now, you are the head and founder of Elite Composers.
It's Hollywood Elite Composers, Hollywood Elite Artists, and there's another company called Sound Has Evolved, and we're all under the umbrella Hollywood Elite, which we do films, and we have a lot of projects on the go, which is basically advocating for composers and artists and music generally.
Tell us about some of the projects that you have going for you right now.
Well, there's the music licensing, which is aggregating all the composers and artists under the Elite banner. So we have some wonderful composers, Harry Gregson Williams, George S. Clinton, and the women who have won Oscars, so Anne Dudley, Rachel Portman. So there's a lot of elite composers that we're aggregating on our platform. And basically we're musicians who are for musicians, and we're trying to aggregate our artistic strength together so that we can back it up with some solidarity, with us all being on the same platform. So it makes it easier for the people looking for music to come to one place and find us all, rather than have to go to individual sites where we have our music.
Okay, so you work with obviously very elite and top composers.
Yeah.
Rachel Portman and
a lot of really amazing talent, and because our business model is so benevolent, I mean, the idea being that we're here to facilitate aggregating them, rather than, we're not a publisher, we're not in competition with anyone, whether it be we're not a rebel company, we're just literally aggregating people. And it was a system that I wanted to create for myself, so I figured, well, if I want this, then I assume lots of other people would like it too, and I just wanted to share the idea with everybody, and it seems to be very popular. So it's, people are coming on board, and we have, we don't advertise, it's all just word of mouth, so the word's spreading, and it's really exciting.
That sounds fantastic. As I'm listening to you, I'm realizing that part of what inspires these kinds of companies like yours in founding a company like Elite is the dramatic changes that have gone on in the world of film, and with, like we were talking before about technology. Can you talk about what are some of the great challenges that music composers face in film and television today?
Well, I think the music industry has been the canary in the coal mine for many industries, and I think that's why we're trying to advocate for music copyrights and for artists and composers, and trying to make other industries understand that with the advent of 3D printers and with the advent of all the different technologies that are pervading the internet, and it's not just our issue, it's an issue that's going to affect everybody, and that we need to use our example of the music industry and how it's changed, and help people understand the changes that are going to occur in every industry that there is because of the developments in technology. And we are the canaries in the coal mine, so we need to learn, and therefore we also need to try and adjust and help every industry learn from our mistakes.
It's interesting you bring that up. I was talking to a composer this morning, Richard
Gibbs.
Mhm.
He's a film composer.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, he is wonderful. And he was bringing up the fact that, intellectual property in this country
Yeah.
accounts for something like 75% of, the money that is generated in the economy on a worldwide basis, because it's not only music.
Mhm.
It's music,
Yeah,
it's
all
film,
kinds of
it's
stuff.
sport, it's cars, it's,
Yeah.
and what you're talking about, I think, obviously sort of goes beyond just copyright or intellectual property issues.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with things like 3D printers and things like that, where actual items, real things in the real world can be duplicated.
Yeah, and there's people who advocate for Creative Commons and having everything that's ever been created and will be created in the future, being open access to everything. And that's why we want to create this movie, this documentary, this series of documentaries that explores all the aspects of copyright and how it will affect the world in the future, and whether that is something that we should explore to go down the Creative Commons, and what that means, and whether the man on the street, the woman on the street understands what is in store for us in the future, and whether having a community that doesn't necessarily benefit from their copyrights is a good thing. Maybe it is a good thing, maybe it's not, but we really need to have that discussion, and we need to understand what the implications of free is, or a subscription model, or how all these new technologies are coming along and are going to affect us on a day-to-day basis, whether it be that your children or your relatives are not going to be employed in that kind of industry anymore, and how that impacts other industries. Because obviously if you're a composer and you can't earn money composing, then you're going to have to do something else, and that might be this person's job or that person's job or any person's job. So, it's going to affect everybody somehow and on some level. So that's why we want to have this discussion and really think it through.
When are you starting out the documentary?
Well, we've already started.
Oh, great.
We've already started on it, and we understand that there's an issue to get it done quickly, because the copyright laws in America are being amended as we speak.
That's right. I was going to say,
So it's really important that we get this documentary done in the next, weeks, months. It can't be years. It has to be, very quickly.
Are you going to be speaking to people in the political arena in Washington about this? Because that's what's going on.
We have basically a wish list of people we'd love to interview and to be part of the discussion. And we don't just want to interview them, on a one-on-one basis. We actually want to have a variety of people in the room talking to each other, because we know the answers out there. We firmly believe that we have the answer, but we just don't know it yet. We haven't put the pieces of the puzzle together. And that if we can put the people together who can create the puzzle pieces, putting them together, then that's what we're trying to do. So it's everyone from composers, artists, photographers, fine artists, visual artists, it's journalists, it's inventors, it's physicists, it's people who are, it's lawyers,
Fashion.
It's everybody who has an interest in intellectual property. So, most people.
Yeah,
but, people who are passionate and vocal and interesting to watch. I mean, it could be everyone from, we know there are lots of celebrities. For example, Johnny Depp is definitely interested in music and art. So, people like him who are interesting icons, people would really love to hear what he has to say, and he gets to speak to some amazing people. So, those kind of people are great to have on the documentary as well.
So you're going to be looking at this issue from both sides of
definitely
people pro and con. So
yeah.
Well, looking at
I'm not an authority. I want to know what all sides of the story are, and I think of myself as being probably a little bit more knowledgeable than some, because I have taken an interest in it. And this time 2 years ago, someone would come in my inbox about this subject, and it would kind of go in the trash. So I'm busy doing my thing, but I realized that if I am now taking an interest, and a lot of people were like me and not taking an interest, how can we get them interested in something that is really important, and make it interesting for them, and get them talking about it over dinner and down the pub, although we don't have pubs down here, that kind of
right.
Social environment. So that's what we're trying to do, to make it interesting.
And what's interesting about it is that this isn't an issue where everybody, even within music or among composers, are in agreement on. That's the fascinating part. It's not like, it's us against them.
No.
Everybody on us all thinks one way and they all think another. It's not as simple as that.
It isn't. And I find that quite fascinating as well.
Yeah.
And it's not even just, oh, well, the old guard think this and the new guard thinks that. It's just everyone has a different opinion. And so that's why I think it's important that we get all those opinions heard and figure out how to proceed.
Who was it? Was it Einstein or I think it was Einstein who said the thinking you must use in solving a problem cannot be the same thinking that created it.
Right.
The same kind of thinking that created the problem will not be the same kind of thinking you can use to solve it.
Yeah.
It has to totally come from a different place. Otherwise, you can't crack the issue.
Yeah. Well, certainly it was Einstein who said something to the effect of, if you keep doing the same thing and getting the same reaction, that's all. You have to be pretty stupid to not want to change.
Yes. It's interesting in hearing what you have to say, because we are operating in this country, copyright-wise, on a system that is over 40 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually hundreds of years old, but the contemporary system that we operate under is 40 years old. When none of this technology, computers, none of it, we were in the vinyl era, back when copyright laws were written.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing massive amounts of, as you said, it's being rewritten as we speak.
Yeah.
And, I think it's got to be, because I think, it's too imbalanced right now.
Yeah.
For what it is. What it will become, I don't know, but I'm glad at least the issues are being looked at.
Yeah. Well, when you look at the trajectory, it's all an exponential curve, and every kind of industry is based on an exponential curve. And we know that the technology that is going to pervade the music industry and the entertainment industry is on this trajectory. And it seems like things are happening really fast, but actually they're not. It's just that you look at any exponential graph, and it does look like that. The invention of the wheel back in the day, everything moves very slowly if you look on a linear term. But when you look how everything's moving twice by twice, times two, times two, times two, suddenly the curve looks like this if you look on a linear level. But you look on an exponential level, it's completely straight. It's very measured. So that this is what we have to look at, the exponential curve of growth that we know is happening. And we look back in 50 years, how life's changed in 50 years, even in the last 5 years. Yeah. Things that we think to ourselves, God, have we really only had, instant messaging for the last however many years? It seems like we've always had it, but actual fact, it's very recent history. And I look back in 1994, I think of the things that we didn't have back then. And when I first came to live in America, for more than just a week or two, and that was in 2001. And I wasn't even able to call my mom back then very easily, which seems extraordinary.
Yes.
That was only less than 15 years ago, when things were really, the communication was difficult. So if you imagine what's happened in that last 15 years, what's going to happen in the next 15. It's going to be crazy.
We didn't have Google until 2001. We didn't have iTunes until 2003. We didn't have YouTube until, what was it, 2001 or 2? I mean, these are all like things that have come about in the last 10, 12,
and we
15
can't
years.
imagine life without them.
No, they're so inculcated. We think, this has always been. And to a generation of people growing up today, creative or not, this is the reality of their life.
But at the same time, I want to bring about a change that because people often feel like, people will never pay for music again, and people will never, want to go back to any old system. I don't advocate that we should go back, but sometimes I feel like if you have a system like the Wild West of the internet, there does come a point where you have to create a system, because there are many systems back in the day that came along that were abusive or that somehow were not equitable, and we had to suddenly take stock and go, you know what, that was not fair. We built maybe a nation on that unfairness, or we built an industry on that unfairness. But at some point we evolve and we go, you know what, that has to change. And then we do something that is dramatic and we change it for the good of everyone.
Look at radio. When songs were first played on the radio, they were getting orchestras and, all kinds of, things to play on the radio. But nobody was saying, how do we pay for this music? Thus, the birth of ASCAP and BMI and performing rights societies out of that wild west of, because prior to radio, everything, you couldn't hear music unless you went to a place to hear it live.
Right.
And that had been that way for hundreds of years, from the times of Bach and Beethoven, where you went to the hall to hear it. Otherwise, you didn't hear music.
Well, this is where I think we are. I think we're at that moment in time where we will have some kind of system that is created in order to, and people imagine somehow that that's going to be, regulations and restrictions of freedom. And I disagree, because I feel like there is no freedom in anarchy. If you have a system whereby you have no idea whether what you have will be stolen at any moment, that's not freedom. We're living in a society where people are protected, and the protection that we have is through regulation. Most people don't need that regulation. Most people live in existence that is free of the regulation. They just exist within it. But knowing that everyone is regulated by it being illegal to steal your stuff means that occasionally you can leave your car door open, knowing that most people are not going to steal your stuff. And I think when we have a system on the internet, in the virtual world that is able to protect us, that's freedom.
That's very interesting. I'm of the belief that, we're going to head to a new system, because part of the new system, I think, is going to consist of, everything moving from a copy model, which is what we've had for, probably 56, 80 years at least, to we've moved to an access model, where we're not about vinyl or cassette or CD or even digital file that we purchase, but we are paying monthly fees to access 20 million songs. And I think that's going to become one where we have to develop that system into a larger amount of usage. It's kind of like the cable or satellite model. Most people I know who get cable or satellite don't know the 300 channels on their system.
Yeah.
But they pay their bill every month.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I think we need to explore all those avenues, and whether the ISPs and the internet service providers are actually going to have to think about, providing funds for the arts, because, a lot of people do access the internet, with a view to wanting to access creative content.
Yes.
And, I think they can't really argue anymore. I mean, this is my personal view. And I may find that after making this documentary that I changed this view. But right now I see that, I want to access my phone and my internet, not just to communicate, with an individual or, group, but to actually get content. To get amusement and entertainment, and for as much as I want that, I feel like some part of the money I pay to access it should go to those content providers.
Some really useful insights coming from Helene, especially for you songwriters and composers. So, insiders, question of the day. What did you feel were the most educational aspects of our conversation with Helene? Was it the many challenges that composers and songwriters face in today's market? Or was it about her company, Hollywood Elite Composers, which advocates for film and television composers? Or maybe it was something else that engaged you. If you have any ideas or experiences that you'd like to share regarding this video, we'd love to hear from you and connect in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to MUBUTV for more information on how to educate, empower, and engage your music career. You can also check out a summary of this episode and everything we talked about in the YouTube description as well. And if you enjoyed this video, we'd really love it if you hit the like button and let us know what other kinds of videos and types of content you want to see on our channel. Hit us up in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.